Orlando Pirates just narrowly defeated Mamelodi Sundowns on penalties 3-1 to win the MTN8 final in Durban at the Moses Mabhida Stadium. Sipho Chaine, yes, that's how you pronounce his name. Hi, Chaine. Arke Sipho Chaine. He saved 3 penalties in a row. He channeled his inner Senzo Maiwa. And if I remember correctly, Senzo Maiwa's send-off was in Durban and he's from Durban. So his spirit was truly well awake for today's game. And yeah, let's get into it. It was a very competitive game, very tight, and there was a lot of controversy. So firstly, let's go straight into the drama regarding the penalties, right? So Sundowns had 3 penalty claims. The first one was in relation to a handball from a corner, and if you think that Sundowns should get a penalty for this, then I don't know if you really watch football. Do you expect us to now cut our hands off and cut our arms off and then start playing football? Because there's clearly nothing that he can do to avoid this handball. Yes, he's jumped. Yes, it's come from a corner. He didn't expect the player in front of him to not get to it. His arms are tucked to his side. They're in a natural position. So for me, there's no way Sundowns should get a penalty for that, and it's not a valid claim, and Rulani has no reason to complain or feel hard done by when it comes to that decision. So the second appeal comes after Chaine drops the ball. He mishandles it and it rolls away from him, and he goes to retrieve it and then makes contact with the player and brings him down. The ref then rules for a foul for Pirates instead of a penalty, which sends Rulani absolutely fuming. But for me, what a decision by the ref. Completely correct, 100%. We can clearly see Peter Shaulile impeding Sipho Chaine's movement to get to the ball. He looked favorite, and without Shaulile's intervention, he might get to the ball first and clear it. So in this case, the ref was absolutely spot on. It was an obstruction by Peter Shaulile. Okay, so once again, no reason for Rulani to pop off on that one. It was the perfect, correct decision for the ref. However, where I do understand that a penalty should have been given was actually later on when Miguel Tim collided with Peter Shaulile. Some people may argue that Peter Shaulile put himself in Miguel Tim's way, but for me, that was still completely normal. He was protecting the ball or protecting his position to control the ball, and Miguel Tim was reckless and he barged into him and he didn't get the ball, and he clearly gets Peter Shaulile's leg. So for me, that should have been a penalty, and that's the only time where the ref got something wrong. Besides that, I thought Abongile Tom had a brilliant game, almost flawless. This was also a very difficult one to see. I'll give him that. We don't have the luxury of VAR, and I think as South Africans, we should still enjoy football in its purest form. We are lucky enough to have football in its purest form, to be allowed to give refs the benefit of the doubt, allow for human error. They are not machines, they are not perfect, they don't get to see it on replay. And for the fact that Abongile Tom had this brilliant game for me and just had this one decision wrong, just shows that it's still football. Like, it still feels so good, because if Sundowns are feeling aggrieved by this or hard done by, if Sundowns are feeling robbed because of this decision, they should remember that they only got to the final because they robbed Kaizer Chiefs of the penalty themselves, right? So it was very clear in the semi-final that Chiefs should have had at least 2 penalties, according to my memory. But, once again, we are not accusing Sundowns of sending through the brown envelope. We are not accusing them of doing that for the Chiefs game. We are also not accusing them of doing that in this game, where it looked like at some point I was thinking that maybe a brown envelope was sent when the linesman was making very shady decisions. For example, when Shaulile missed the sitter, when Shaulile missed the header, the cross, before the cross came in, that was offside. Right, so the linesman should have raised his flag up, and there was a chance for Pirates that came also later on in the game, and the linesman raised his flag almost immediately, although there was a block by the defender and Pirates didn't get to do anything with that situation. The linesman raised his flag immediately, although the player was onside. So at some point I was thinking that, hey, what's going on here? But the linesman also made up for his errors in this case by correctly ruling Sundowns' goal out for offside, and it was very clear that it was offside. And once again, Rulani was fuming, suggesting that maybe Pirates has sent an envelope to the refs or something. But it was very clear that for me, the only decision that maybe really affected the game is Miguel Tim on Peter Shaulile. And besides that, it was an absolutely good game by the referee. So with that being said, I think I think we can give the referee the benefit of the doubt here. Had an amazing game. To summarize, I feel like Chaine was man of the match. He had that save in the 3rd minute when Zwane was 1-on-1. He was through on goal. I think the only issue is that for me, Zwane doesn't look up. He doesn't look up to see where the keeper is, his positioning is, and he's forced to then rush his shot when the keeper comes out, and as well as the defenders closing in. But that was a great save by Chaine. He also made other saves, but that was one noticeable one, and obviously the 3 penalty saves earns him a man of the match. I think another player that was amazing was Miguel Tim. So simple, played almost 2-touch football, everything that you need in a CDM, wins the ball, then passes it, doesn't try to do any tricks, doesn't take his time on the ball, nothing fancy. And I think that's exactly what this game needed. From minute 1, you can see both teams were extremely aggressive, extremely competitive. You couldn't spend 3 seconds on the ball, you couldn't take 3 touches on the ball, then they were onto you or you'd lose it. And because of that, that's how I feel the players needed to play, and we wouldn't have had so many free kicks or so many stop and starts. And I think Miguel Tim was just class. He was amazing. I think he's the perfect player, so disciplined and always reliable with his decision making. I was so impressed with Miguel Tim. I think he's quality. For me, if it wasn't for Chaine's penalty saves, Miguel Tim would have won man of the match for me, that's for sure. I mean, it must be said that on paper, Sundowns were the better team coming into this game, and they were the better team as well on the day. They dominated the game, created loads of chances. At some point, I was very worried for Pirates, especially in the second half. The first 30 minutes, it was just a complete domination phase by Mamelodi Sundowns. Unfortunately, they didn't take their chances. Coach Jose channeled his inner Jose Mourinho, and he was fantastic when it comes to tactics. Pirates was solid. I think it was the only way that Pirates could get something out of the game, because it was a mental exercise. Since head-to-head, Sundowns has won more games. Sundowns recently beat Pirates 1-0 a few weeks ago, although it was a 10th minute penalty that won it for them. But usually Sundowns come up victorious against Pirates. So you can see at the beginning as well, Pirates players were very nervy, making a lot of mistakes, loose passes. And I think once they stabilized and remembered that last season in the MTN8 semi-final, Pirates got the better of Sundowns, and they've done it again today. It should be mentioned that now this is a 3rd win in finals and a 3rd trophy for Coach JR. Brilliant record in domestic cup competitions. And Pirates has also never lost a final at Moses Mabhida Stadium. So I think that's the 4th final that they've won. And therefore, it was almost written in the stars, this result. With that being said, congratulations on Orlando Pirates on winning the MTN8 back-to-back. Very impressive. And all the best to Sundowns in the future. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for tuning in. Leave a like, subscribe. I'll see you next time.